Exhale, fam. Today the DMV is actually on fire, and I don't mean the summer heat out in Ashburn. Brandon AIYUK, former All-Pro, one of the best receivers the NFC had for a solid 3-year run, posted on Instagram shirtless, wearing a Commanders hat, quoting Drake. And John Keim from ESPN, one of the reporters who has covered this franchise as long as anyone, said on air that AIYUK is, quote, clearly begging to come to Washington. That is where we are starting. But while that drama eats up all the oxygen in the media cycle, there is a rookie down in Ashburn doing something that I think the fan base is sleeping on badly. And then we close with the last survivor of an era that I genuinely get emotional thinking about and what his future here probably looks like. Let's get into it. Alright, Brandon AIYUK wants to be a Commander. And I need someone to explain to me why this has not been closed yet, because the takes on both sides have been lazy. The bring him immediately crowd and the he is a head case stay away crowd. Both are skipping over the parts that actually matter. Here are the facts. AIYUK is 28, first round pick, 25th overall in the 2020 draft. Had his breakout in 2023, 75 catches, 1,342 yards, 7 touchdowns, second team All-Pro. Then in August of 2024, he signed a 4-year, $120 million extension with San Francisco, basically hours before the season started. Then in week 7 of that same season, playing against the Chiefs, he caught a 15-yard pass, came down with 2 defenders on him, and his right knee just buckled. ACL and MCL, both torn, confirmed by Kyle Shanahan the next day. Ian Rappaport said there may have been additional damage. That was October 2024, and he has not played a snap since. That is where the clock started, not from some vague mystery injury. A torn ACL and MCL in the same knee in the same fall, with a note that there could be more. That is what we are dealing with. Then in 2025, he cut off all communication with the 49ers mid-season. San Francisco responded by voiding the guarantees in his contract, roughly $25 million gone. Then 3 weeks ago, he got an arrest warrant in California for driving way over the speed limit past Levi's Stadium, filming the whole thing and posting it. Like a movie villain doing a slow drive-by past the place he wants out of. And then Monday, Instagram, shirtless, Commander's hat, Drake quote from the album Iceman. The line roughly translates to stop lying. Everyone already knows how this ends. John Keim said he is begging to come to Washington. Now look. SpotRack projects his value at $12.3 million if the 49ers release him. The dead cap hit for San Francisco after June first dropped to $7.3 million, which is why you started hearing more noise around this right around that date. The pick cost in a trade would be low because the 49ers are in full sell mode. On paper, the path to getting AIYUK is not complicated, but here is where I diverge from what most people are saying, and I want to be upfront that I could be wrong on this. I think Adam Peters is waiting, and I think his reasons are better than he gets credit for. First thing Peters needs to know is what that knee actually looks like right now, not from a press release, from a real independent medical exam. AIYUK tore his ACL and MCL with potential additional damage 18 months ago. ACL recoveries in the NFL average about a year, sometimes longer when the MCL goes with it. Some players come back and look exactly like themselves. Some come back and something is just slightly off in their cutting, their burst, their release off the line. You cannot know from Instagram videos. Schefter said back in March on Pardon My Take that we genuinely do not know what AIYUK will look like physically. That was Schefter saying that, not a blogger, Schefter. I keep coming back to that. Second thing Peters needs is clarity on the contract situation, because if AIYUK comes over without a renegotiation and the original deal stays in place, Washington is looking at a cap number north of $27 million, in a cap situation where Jaden Daniels is going to need a major extension in the next year or two. If AIYUK stays healthy and performs, he is going to want to get paid again on top of whatever restructure gets done. Is Peters ready to navigate all of that? Maybe, but that is a real conversation, not a simple one. Third thing, and this is the one nobody wants to say out loud, does AIYUK's pattern of behavior over the last 12 months fit what Dan Quinn has built in that locker room? I am not going to pile on a player for having a contract dispute. That happens everywhere. But cutting off your team mid-season, driving past their stadium like a stunt, the arrest warrant, the Instagram theater, that is a lot stacked up in a short window. Quinn has spent 2 years building something specific in Ashburn around accountability and team-first culture. One wrong addition can crack that faster than people think. My actual position is this: I want AIYUK, but I want Peters to wait him out. If the 49ers release him, Washington can sign him for $12 million, skip the trade, skip the picks, and do a full medical before agreeing to anything. That is the best version of this deal, and Peters is smart enough to know that. The question is whether some other team panics and trades for him before that happens. One thing I will leave in the comments: if AIYUK gets to training camp and that knee does not look right, does he still make this roster better than what Williams and Burks can do inside Blau's system? I genuinely do not know, and I do not think most people asking for the trade have sat with that question long enough. So while all the AIYUK noise fills every group chat in the DMV, something is actually happening on the field in Ashburn that I think deserves more attention than it is getting. Antonio Williams, 21 years old, 3rd round pick, 71st overall, out of Clemson. And I know the reaction when you see 3rd round slot receiver. But hold on, before his final season, Williams was showing up on legitimate 1st round boards. The reason he fell was his height, listed at 5'11.5" at the combine. That is the number. And Dabo Swinney, who has developed Sammy Watkins, Mike Williams, and DeAndre Hopkins, said publicly after the draft that Williams was a steal in the 3rd round and would have been a 1st round pick with a couple more inches. When Dabo says that about one of his own guys, you pay attention. He is not doing press tours for players who already got drafted. The production at Clemson is real. Over his college career, he put together more than 20 career touchdowns across receiving, rushing, and passing. His best year was 2024, 75 catches, 904 yards, 11 receiving touchdowns, 1st team All-ACC. Then in 2025, he had a hamstring issue that cost him games. Finished with 55 catches and 4 scores in 10 games before declaring early. That injury history is the honest concern. A hamstring that goes once at the college level under NFL level load is something to watch in camp. But what matters right now is what is happening in Ashburn. The reports coming out of OTAs are genuinely positive. One of the position coaches on staff described him as a sponge, says he is trying to absorb everything he can. That kind of comment in June at voluntary workouts is not filler. That is someone inside the building telling the world this kid is doing the right things when nobody is watching. Tactically, he is a perfect fit for what David Blau is building. Blau's offense runs on pre-snap motion, fast reads, and protecting Jaden Daniels by getting the ball out quickly. A slot receiver who can line up inside and outside, who wins with route precision and change of direction rather than pure size, is exactly what that system needs. Williams is not a field stretcher. PFF's combined grade on his vertical ability was a 4 out of 10, but his route running was an 8 and his change of direction flexibility was a 9. Those are slot receiver grades. That is his position. And in Blau's system, that position matters a lot. Here's where I push back on the narrative that Williams is just a placeholder while Washington waits on AIYUK or Diggs. Peters drafted him in the 3rd round with a real plan. Blau is using him in OTAs with intent, and the player is responding. That combination does not happen by accident, and treating it like it does is lazy analysis. If AIYUK never arrives, is this receiver room a top 3 in the NFC? No. McLaurin plus, Williams plus, a healthy Burks plus, Chigakonkwo at tight end is not elite, but it is functional, and with Jaden Daniels running the offense, functional can win games. The Eagles proved that structure and quarterback quality beat raw talent at receiver more often than people admit. I am not writing off the AIYUK pursuit, I just think Williams is more real than the discourse is treating him. Because there is actual football news here mixed in with something that hits different if you have been watching this team for a while. Payne, 26 years old, drafted 13th overall out of Alabama in 2018. Signed a 4-year, $90 million extension before the 2023 season, with $60 million guaranteed. That contract runs out after this year. His cap number in 2026 is $27.5 million. And Bleacher Report put him on their trade candidate list this week, with Carolina mentioned as a destination. The business case for moving him is pretty clean. Jarzon Newton is here and is already being talked about as the long-term answer at that position. Newton has the motor and the penetration ability that Payne had in his best years. If Newton is the future and Payne is in a final year deal with no extension coming, every dollar freed from that $27 million hit is a dollar Peters can use somewhere else. And Peters always finds somewhere else to use it. The production reality is also worth naming honestly. Since his Pro Bowl year in 2022, Payne has averaged about 4 sacks a season. For an interior tackle at that price, that is not the return you are hoping for. PFF had him on their list of potential 2026 trade candidates too. The market signal is there, but I want to say something about what Payne represents beyond the contract numbers, because I think it matters. Jonathan Allen came to Washington in 2017. Payne in 2018. Montez Sweat in 2019. Chase Young in 2020, 4 straight years of elite defensive line talent. That group gave this fan base something to hold on to during some genuinely rough years. And they are all gone now, except Payne. Young traded to San Francisco, Sweat to Chicago, Allen released, played in Minnesota last year, now in Cincinnati. Payne is the last one, and what makes it sit weird is that he has not made it weird. He showed up at OTAs this week, talked to reporters, said he is focused on football and wants to win in 2026. No drama, no trade request, just a professional doing his job in what is probably his last year here. That quiet professionalism makes it harder, not easier, to think about him leaving. My read on what actually happens: Peters does not move him before camp. There is no urgency and no guaranteed money left that forces a quick deal. Payne comes in, works with Durante Jones in the new defensive scheme, and Peters watches. If the team is competing and Payne is contributing in October, he stays. If someone calls with a pick offer that makes sense, and Newton has shown he can carry the load, then it gets done at the trade deadline. That is how Peters operates. Maximize value at the right moment, not because someone wrote an article in June. But I will be honest, I think Payne's career as a Commander is over after this season, and when that day comes, whether it is a trade in October or a quiet free agency exit in March, it is going to close a chapter that this fan base really loved. Raise hail, Darren. You are still ours for now. That is what I have today, fam, and honestly, these 3 stories are kind of the same story when you sit with them. The Commanders are in between who they were and who they are trying to become. AIYUK is the shortcut that comes with real risk. Williams is the bet on building something from inside. And Payne is the end of a run that this city deserved to celebrate more than it did. All of it is happening right now while Jaden Daniels is in Ashburn learning a new offense and getting ready for the most important season of his career. I think this team can surprise people. I genuinely do. If the defense is what Durante Jones is promising and Daniels takes another step, the NFC East does not get to sleep on Washington again. Raise hail, always. If this video gave you something, hit the like, and tell me in the comments, do you wait on the 49ers to release AIYUK and sign him cheap, or do you just go get him in a trade now and deal with the risk? I want every answer. See you in the next one.